son? Where'd you find this?
Buckle up, buttercups. It's time to get down to business. Oh, yeah. It's the Totally Legitimate Business Podcast. Totally legit.
All right, folks, welcome back. It is once again the Totally Legitimate Business Podcast. Please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel, and we greatly appreciate it. Today, we've got another one that we've been cooking up for months now. I'm really excited to finally get into this one because it's just been swirling at the forefront of my mind for so long. Please welcome to the show a fellow explorer of philosophical ideas, host of the Philosophical Minds podcast, and co-host of the Esoterica podcast, Mr. Sky Mathis. Oh, yeah. Now, I'm playing that special intro because we're going to dig into aliens. We're going to dig into a lot of the stuff that is happening in that scene right now. And there are so many interesting updates. But before we kind of dig into that, just give the audience a quick intro of yourself and your shows and what got you into doing this thing, which is uploading content on the internet.
All right. Well, first and foremost, thank you. Appreciate you. I love your podcast. It's going to be a totally legitimate one, hopefully. So, I'm Sky Mathis, Philosophical Minds podcast, the Esoterica podcast. Kind of got into this just because I'm curious about consciousness and what all is going on with phenomena, what's possible, what's real, what's fake, what is worth inquiring into. And so I sort of used the Philosophical Minds podcast as a way of being able to hopefully educate myself by being able to talk to individuals that I normally wouldn't be able to talk to. And just dive into different worlds revolving around psychology, metaphysics, the esoteric nature of things. And so I guess that's what my motivation was primarily. The Esoterica podcast is with my co-host Ike Baker, which you've interviewed multiple times.
Ike Baker.
Shout out Ike, legend. And that one's primarily focused on esoteric subject matters and ceremonial magic and that whole crazy world. So how did you get into like the esoteric stuff? Which came first, chicken or the egg here? So, well, which one's the chicken and which one's the egg?
Well, there's exploring philosophical ideas, which anyone with, philosophy 101 creds could do. But then there's exploring philosophical ideas through the lens of the esoteric traditions, or viewing the esoteric traditions as like very advanced philosophical ideas before that was a thing that could be discussed. But like for me, it was contemplating strange ideas, definitely exploring philosophy. And then I come across the esoteric stuff and it was like, oh, cool. I vibe with this a little bit better. But what was your trajectory?
I think it happened in a few different ways. I remember coming across an old website just in the early days of the internet, looking around, seeing what was out there, coming across Hermetic texts and just being curious, like what is Hermeticism and the Hermetica, and there's like this website, sacredtext.com, that just had all sorts of different...
I was just going to say that. that was absolutely my gateway too. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. And so that, I was, they had categories and different, and it's just like, whoa, what is all this? Whole worlds of interesting alchemical texts, and then what is alchemy? And then I got really curious, particularly about alchemy from the operative angle of, because most people think of alchemy as spiritual alchemy.
Right.
Absolutely. But there's also the operative aspect, which revolves around different processes with metallic, mineral, vegetable kingdom And that's a whole other world. And then so I became curious about, what's this Philosopher's Stone thing? Is it real? Is it, what's transmutation? What's going on with all that stuff? And then a lot of my podcasts revolve around finding people that are experimenting with operative alchemy and who have experience in that area and digging into what's possible and what's actually going on, because it gets really complex. But I had another thought on that, which was, the sacredtext.com thing. I came across, I was trying to find this website for this interview that there used to be this website on satellite surveillance technologies, like super rudimentary, like old school, back in the days where like we had like AOL dial up and stuff. Sure. And it was so cool. And it like, it looked very generic, but it had it just like laid things out super like clearly about what's possible in terms of technology and satellites being linked up to like different sensor technologies and the possibilities of like video, like real-time video surveillance with like infrared and multiple technologies glommed on to these satellites that are like gathering data, and then all these radome stations that are around the world, and like from Memwith Hill to Pine Gap, Australia, and the Five Eyes network and all this stuff. So that was also kind of going on at the same time. I had my uncle, he was pretty vague on all of this, but he had some role where he quote unquote delivered messages. And so he would travel around and, do the family quote unquote vacations while simultaneously doing whatever. And they would go to places like Memwith Hill and these areas where he would have to go in and they would have to stay out. And I just was curious, and he doesn't really tell me too much.
Sure. Yeah.
And so that always just like piqued my interest. I used to think that like the CIA and these intelligence agencies when I was little were just like make believe, and they were just like I didn't think they were real, but yeah, they're very real. And so that whole world has always interested me, and all these converging things. So, curious about, I've had some different experiences with consciousness as far as like waking up out of my body and then just being, and then like falling back into my body before I had ever even heard anything about an out of body experience. And then so that, naturally made me look into and research things like out of body experiences and all of these sort of things. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully that's a little bit of.
No, it's great. I mean, I'm always just interested how people like filter. It is really funny how, of course, there are like the gateways, like sacred texts, that like the things that we all kind of pass through. Because for a while they were like the only utilities for these kind of explorations. I also remember watching a ton of conspiracy channels on JustinTV, which was like an old school streaming, like before streaming. Yeah, before streaming became what it is now. Like people would just have their own stream and it'd be like obscure conspiracy documentaries. It's just funny how we come from different perspectives or different backgrounds, but we all like kind of pass through similar channels and then end up being interested in a lot of very, very similar overlapping topics, which kind of gets to what we're talking about here, because for the longest time there was very loose suggestion that maybe the esoteric stuff was actually touching on whatever the alien stuff is. And the more that this conversation becomes a thing that can be had in the mainstream, the more we're seeing that connection like really kind of blossom and turn into all sorts of stuff, both good and bad. I really first started to notice this shift when Diana Pasulka's first book came out, American Cosmic. I don't know if you've read that, but that's like in the recent lore, that's like a big book, and she comes from like a religious background. so her interpretation of the whole alien thing was like within the confines of like, this is a new religion. And it's not a new idea. I definitely remember having many ridiculous conversations with my friends in middle school about how, you know, what if the angels were aliens? Like, what if that was just the terminology, or, you know, how it was, how an idea that could have been conveyed to an average person who had no concept of what an alien was. So, you know, I'm interested in, as somebody who is interested in these topics, watching the shift to have like a more religious undertone, and kind of your thoughts on why we get there. I have a million other things to say about it. And shout out to our buddy Ike. I've asked Ike about this a few times, and his most succinct answer does make a lot of sense. And it's that the idea of aliens, the modern sci-fi iteration, that is a materialist problem. That's us trying to take a thing, which is the communication with higher intelligences, which has been practiced for thousands of years across every culture on the earth. And we're trying to stuff it into this like materialist box, this sci-fi materialist box. Now, I just had another guy on the show called Jason Samosa. He makes a bunch of really, really good content too. And he kind of, he takes that same perspective, but he's like, even within terms of religion, that too is stuffing it into some kind of reductionist box. And it's not like it's being framed in religious terms because that is what universally could be understood. Like everyone understands the religion, their relation to religion, and they can kind of frame it within it. But he thinks that even framing it in terms of like a Christian angels and demons kind of thing is dangerous because of all the connotations that go with it. So what are your thoughts there? I know that's a lot, but what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, it's all of the above. I think that, at least it's quite possibly all of the above. I don't rule out the possibility that there are extraterrestrial entities that exist that aren't of the earth. But I think a lot of it is also what we're seeing is man-made black project technology, or, I think that there's obviously, I think the metaphysical reality of things and interdimensionality of things is a very real thing. And so I feel like sometimes you listen to some of these people and they're like very convinced that it's all an interdimensional thing, and it's all psychological. It's not actually anything tangible. It's just a manifestation of the mind or whatever. And then some other people will be like, it's all man-made. These are all experiments that are just private military contractors, and it's nothing to do with anything spiritual. It's nothing to do with anything interdimensional or anything like that. And then so you have a lot of different camps that are kind of they're narrow in their perspective as far as I'm concerned. I think that when I know about things metaphysically and things, the psycho-spiritual nature of reality and all of that, that's a very real thing for me, and so I just entertain both possibilities and probabilities, and I think that it's a little bit of both, and that's what makes it so confusing to discern what's what, because now we have people coming out and they're talking about crash retrieval programs and reverse engineering crafts and things like this, and there's this talk of this consciousness aspect in some areas where they're having some sort of transmission psychically with craft that they're encountering, and then you have certain individuals that will say that they perceive all of these things as a threat, and they're threatening this, they're all just like a deceptive threat, and we should take it as something that should be counteracted with military force or whatever. Then there's the other angle where like some people think that these entities or these beings or these crafts are all love and light, and they're, we should trust them. And so I just think that it's like with humans, our reality is that there's light and there's dark and there's good and there's bad and there's good and evil, and it's a little bit of everything. I think that there's probably a lot of what we're seeing is just super sophisticated man-made technologies that are so far beyond what most people are willing to accept or can comprehend or even understand what's possible technologically. But I think I also strongly believe in things that are interdimensional, and things like when you get into like these orbs and like these like light manifestations that are not so technological. They're not so much like crafts, but they're like some sort of light spheres of like light, or like balls of light and
plasma. Yeah.
Like this consciousness that some people will say has some interaction. Yeah. Like plasma. And then you can talk about like plasma beings, and you can talk about like the jinn, which are like associated with like Middle Eastern lore, the jinn or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's all over the place. And but so that's what makes it challenging, but also kind of fun, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, I'm of the same mind. Like, I think we should be entertaining all the possibilities. Every thought should get its fair due. And I do love the fact that it is bringing some more of the obscure esoteric history to the forefront. It being labeled one thing I'm inclined to agree that labeling it angels or demons is like simplifying it way too much. And when we do that, we're immediately forcing a lot of people on this planet to view it in a certain way that maybe isn't the healthiest way. Now, I also am willing to accept that of the people that have come out talking about it, they can only put it in a term that they can understand. And the closest thing that they can understand is whatever their Judeo-Christian belief system is, like the particulars of their belief system. So like, I'm interested in like, what is a framework that we can even present or discuss this thing within that kind of encompasses all of that, but doesn't start to get siloed. And I think that's why esoteric stuff is might be a more accurate or positive way to represent it, because it can be like there are esoteric principles that are shared across all of the esoteric teachings and cultures and belief systems. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like they might be referred to as different things within specific belief systems, but the underlying definition or nature of whatever it is it's the same exact concept. Esotericism has been very effective in getting a message from way back in the day to modern day and like having it retain its meaning.
Definitely. I think it's funny because you bring up like the esoteric coming to the forefront, and it's always a double-edged sword when I see conversations with like Tucker Carlson, for example. It's like, oh, this is cool. Like, he's like kind of going into these occult subject matters, but it's like all from like the worst angle possible. Yeah, 100%. And it's just like painting the worst picture. And so, it's like the potential is amazing, but then it can just get so fucked for public perception when you have somebody that's so popular discussing things from their religious perspective or their ideology, where they're going to portray something as they best know how, but then not be aware of like the whole other side of it. So yeah, I always find those conversations interesting on that level.
Well, it's also too. It's like, there's a reason that not everyone is supposed to have access to it. You're not supposed to let the profane hear this shit for this exact reason, because they'll want to burn it, right? And it's certainly the double-edged sword. And honestly, there is a huge portion of it that is super annoying to watch. Like a history or lesser known fact about a connection between these two things kind of filter up to the mainstream. Everyone starts making these videos that are very reminiscent of like early 2000s Illuminati videos. I don't know. It's like a poorly thought out, a kindergartner's interpretation of what these symbols mean, or like the connection that these symbols have to whatever it is they're talking about. It's like a misappropriation of occult images and ideas. But, again, like I am happy to see these things because, again, there are people out here that have studied this. There are people that are very knowledgeable on it. We're fortunate to have kind of like sought out people who speak in those terms and look at the world in that way. And getting any of their takes, or even just getting like their name associated. Like, those are the people that should be talking about this shit, not the average UFO creator on Twitter. But like, that's what a majority of what we're going to see is like, we're going to go to YouTube or X, and it's going to be some asshole who doesn't know what the meaning of any of the symbols that they're saying are, like these Satanist, I don't know. There's like a whole continuous tirade I could go down.
Oh yeah. I love listening to Candace Owens and her passion dissecting the Charlie Kirk situation, and it gets me fucking fired up, and I'm like, fuck yeah. But then every now and then she'll be like, and these people are into Kabbalah, and like this is like, and she just has this view of Kabbalah as this like bad demonic thing, and I'm like, oh man, you're so good, and like you got so much good that you're doing, but it's just certain areas. But the way that I look at it is like, it's still exciting. I'm still optimistic because even, on Joe Rogan, for example, he's always at the forefront of a lot of the things going on in society and interviewing a lot of different people. And he has this way of slowly trickling in conversations, and I look at occultism and esotericism as like the last frontier, and it's like almost inevitable that we're on this trajectory of, because we all love podcasts and listening to podcasts, and it seems to me like the podcasts and the podcasters that do well, they are going into questioning the nature of consciousness and like expanding on these broad ideas, and they're not limited in some narrow lane where they're like fixated on some super rigid ideology. They're like having these conversations where they're allowing this large swath of potentialities and a lot of different unique perspectives to come in, and that's what people are attracted to. People are attracted to like exploring the possibilities of consciousness and the possibilities of our reality, and hearing new ideas. And inevitably, it seems like it's becoming more and more interesting that the podcasts and the podcasters that are already out there, when they lean into these subjects, people like that and people are attracted to it. And it's because it's this territory that's sort of underexplored and unknown, and it's only a matter of time before people start to just go deeper and deeper into it and have on different guests and get to the bottom of things. And so I just think that it's just unfolding, and it's just a matter of time. It's a trajectory thing that these popular people that we see in the media that are like, Joe Rogan, for example, or whatever, like it's only inevitable. It's a matter of time before he has on guests that they start going deeper into these things and getting to the core and the root of, what is actually behind, not just surface level stuff, but like, going into different various ancient texts and occult traditions from like an actual informed perspective versus just kind of like touching on it here and there, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I do like, it is interesting too, like all of these, one of the reasons I always find myself coming back to these topics is because it just, everything points back to here. Like, I want to research a rabbit hole, and it's about like, what's the weirdest shit the CIA was doing during a certain time. And almost for every era, there are books that they were acquiring, and a lot of them, like a lot of the esoteric texts, they're in the CIA's library. Like you look at it online. Yeah. Why do they care? Why does that care? Why do they care so much about that? So many of the people that are coming forward with alien experiences are talking about some kind of like Enochian connection and the symbols and the words and why it all kind of keeps pointing back to this. Even I just think one of the things I've always found funny is like there's new science that'll come out and it will like reaffirm or set a new precedent for like an understanding of how the human mind works, but that will be a teaching that is buried in an esoteric that's been explored already well before they had the science to do it. So it's like all the modern science that kind of reinforces these ideas that were being talked about in great detail thousands of years ago. I don't know. It's just, it's interesting how it all kind of leads back to there. And I guess it doesn't surprise me that more people are talking about it within that frame of reference. And even, especially with the alien stuff, like I was talking with this other guy about it, it's baked into our system in a strange way through not only Jack Parsons, who is deep into OTO and, a crucial person in the development of the American rocket program, but also the Nazis that we took over in Paperclip, many of whom were like, there were a number of Nazi secret societies with, a lot of these types of practices or traditions reframed in a Nazi way. We took a lot of those people and they also became fundamental to developing our rocket program, sending it to them. It's like, you see what I mean? It's like baked in a weird way in that terminology, that language.
Yeah. Like Michael McKeno or something. He's like,
well, okay. So yeah, Aquino was, I'm pretty sure he worked for the Army, psychological operations. I have heard people like connected to UFO. I don't know how he is connected to UFO. I know him mostly as connected with the Satanic Panic and like some weird shit that went on there. But again, those are just rumors. And now I'm also hearing people connect the Satanic Panic to the UFO situation.
Of course, yeah.
So why not?
But yeah, you got like, yeah, why not? But yeah, like Parsons, like the Nazi intelligence. Yeah, like Crowley. But there's a case to be made. He was like a double agent. Like people involved in tech and intelligence, and also the occult. The like what was like the Vril Society.
Right. Vril and Thule were the
Thule, Thule, all this stuff. But and then people latch on to that stuff and then they focus on it and then they just get the idea that it's all dark and it's all evil, and that's what sucks because it's like there's a light side, there's a good side to all of this stuff, but it's just those people aren't the ones that are out there, making a stir, and then so that's where it kind of gets bothersome, just like the same way people draw in Freemasons to every everything. They'll just talk about gematria and Freemasons and then make a claim that Freemasons are connected to every false flag operation. And they'll just be like, look, 33 is 33-degree Freemason, da-da-da-da-da, and stuff like that. And so
it's like that early 2000s Illuminati shit. I'm telling you, it's like, it's very, very similar to that. And I find it to be really funny. People are so scared of what they don't know, but they're also like completely scared about reading about something, which is just a really dangerously ignorant combination. And it's hilarious.
But also, like, I totally used to be that person. Like, I was totally like, yeah, I think the Freemasons are sketchy. Like, who knows what they're up to? I don't know. They have these like secret rituals, all this stuff. But then, like, over time, I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna like just talk to these people, get to know them. Now they're like my best friends, like the nicest, goodest people I know. And it's just so funny how your perception, if you're like, you have an idea about something that you don't know about and you paint a picture in your mind based off of whatever shit that you've heard other people talk about that aren't informed, and then you formulate an opinion, and then you get this bad idea, and you reinforce that, you're closing yourself off to like this whole world. And I just think that that's like a part of a problem that's going on, because I used to think the same way, and I know how easy it is to slip into all that. So, but at the same time, there is a lot of fucking crazy fucked up shit, so you always gotta be weary and discerning.
Well, I think it's worth analyzing, like, any group that had to operate in secret, like the Masons, and the Masons aren't the only ones. There's so many others that people are just completely unaware of. Any group like that, it obviously is more sinister from the outside. And once it's, that's just ignorance. You expose yourself to it more. You're like, oh, this isn't so scary. I'm familiar with what this is, and now it doesn't seem so weird. But I also think it's an interesting, like, okay, let's say this is a conspiracy that has been talked about for a long time, but let's just game it out here. All right. So these societies operating in the shadows were trying to fulfill an agenda for humanity. And whether that played out super tangibly or it was like metaphorical, like tangibly, like they were actually the reason behind Earth or society shifting things that propelled society in a way. That's one train. Or the metaphor is that the ideas that they inculcated spread enough to the general public to where it propelled society forward because more people were now thinking within some kind of expanded consciousness. I'm willing to accept that, like, there has been some influence, and maybe whatever the force, the higher intelligence that these groups were interacting with or interacting on behalf of, again, like, people have been communicating with non-human intelligence for centuries. It's very well documented. Like, people have talked about it. It's just recently that we're trying to frame it into this alien thing, or even kind of cram it into religion. But, like, yes, that whether that was literal or metaphorical, that has happened. Those groups have influenced society. Those things absolutely have happened. And, it's not that is good or bad, but in the same way that, every group of people thinks differently, the motivations behind everyone trying to do that. I don't know. Is any of this making sense? Is any of this tracking to now?
I mean, and it's like you have different souls that incarnate in different personality types that are attracted and inevitably to certain ways of thinking or information. And you're going to have, people in society that just want to be a mom and stay at home and bake cookies, and they're good. They don't even care. They don't want to think about esoteric subject matters or stuff like that. Just doesn't interest them. They could care less. But then you have people that's interesting to them. They want to know what's possible, like what's going on with human psychology, what's going on, like what are the limits of human psychology, where does psychology meet like spiritual realities and interdimensionality and all of these things. And you get groups that form based on their interests, and of course, being the nature of those interests inevitably will form groups that are both of a good and of a bad nature. They're going to have motivations that are selfish or dominant. They want power, they want control. And then there's going to be people that they want to help people, they want to heal people, they want unity, they want to bring people together. But there's like these levels and these like factions within these different categories of interests. And I would say that it seems like it's been mostly tabooed so much when you start to really go into these areas, because they're so touchy with the subconscious and the unconscious, and the effects that could have on your mind can be detrimental for a lot of people, because they're literally not able to sustain certain states or be aware of certain things without having some sort of like fracture or break in their psyche. And so, I don't know where I was going with that, but I was trying to go somewhere.
Well, no, I think that is that's kind of the point that I was trying to make, is that yes, these groups and these ideas have affected society, and assigning the morality of any of these groups or their personal agenda is a case by case basis. But we have found ourselves here on the precipice of so many interesting things like kind of happening at the same time. The one, and this is why I always feel like it's most dangerous when we start like shoehorning the alien stuff into like a biblical context, to Judeo-Christian context, because even without the alien shit, we have people in our government and in other governments that are literally trying to advance the apocalypse. Like they look at their role in the world as advancing the apocalypse to fulfill some kind of biblical scripture. And I mean, that's biblical prophecy,
Yeah, that's like where you get into like the Israel-Palestine conflict and what's going on there, because Israel's central to those ideas, and a lot of these, I'm talking about the Israeli government. I'm not talking about the people, the citizens of Israel per se, but a lot of these like super ideological, theologically minded people that are latching on to those ideas that you're talking about are like essentially trying to fulfill biblical prophecies and accelerate them. It seems like they want them to come to pass. And that comes with a lot of death, and that comes with a lot of innocent lives being killed. And but it's definitely seems evident that is a price that a lot of these people are willing to pay, and at the expense of other people. And it's just so funny and weird to me with the whole conflict there. And when, this whole label of like calling people anti-Semitic or anti-Semitism has become like just the word to call anybody that challenges the Israeli government. Like you want to, and it's funny because like Semitic, like it's just like Semites yelling at Semites, because it's like every time somebody says, hey, maybe like bombing a refugee camp That's not great PR. Like the entire internet just suddenly screams, that's anti-Semitic. And it's wild because like Palestinians are Semites.
Are also Semitic.
Like,
yeah, right.
Yeah. And like, so yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's just funny because like, I don't know. The Israeli government's PR people, they're fucking like Navy SEAL level narrative management. Like they can spin anything. And, you know, they just like level a building and then just like write a press release with collateral damage in some enthusiastic tone where they're like justifying it and then just making it be like, oh yeah, well, you know, war is hard and
War is dirty.
That's what has to
exactly.
yeah,
exactly.
Meanwhile, like Western politicians are like lining up like it's a ride, and you know we stand with Israel. Yeah, it's
well,
like,
dude, this
you
is,
also stand with Enron, so maybe sit down.
Yeah, and Lockheed. Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah.
Well, I think the thing there too is like in this, we're hearing this more and more that the whole Judeo-Christian apocalypse scenario that exists amongst people in leadership positions in the military and the government. Like they want it too. Israel advancing the agenda of the apocalypse serves the Christian story too. And it's like,
right.
What? We don't care if we leave this earth barren. We're going to heaven. We don't care. Like we're trying to.
It's all prophesied.
Yeah, it's like this life doesn't mean anything. We're looking for the next one, and you know, definitely with like a false flag alien invasion thing has been talked for a long time. But anymore, when I look at this, what I feel like they're trying to create whatever the alien thing is, but frame it in the context of like the second coming. This is the apocalypse moment. And you know that there's a number of ways we can skin this cat. Okay. Let's say the aliens are the religious figures that we think them to be, and their return is the apocalypse. Okay. That could fulfill that. Or people just create a constant state of war to justify and use the prophecy to justify it. And we destroy all life or ability for life to be inhabitable on the surface of this planet, which is fun. We also have tools and technology that can make shit appear in the sky. So like the idea of like, could we do this? Could you fool a bunch of people? Could you trick them into thinking this was happening? Yes. The answer. Look how easily humans' behavior.
People are falling in love with AI right now.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like, look how easy we are to manipulate. If they did some dazzling display in the sky, would people think it was God? Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely a large portion of the population. I always wonder, I'm like, would my parents fall for that one?
Well, and okay, so to be fair, people like you and I who've looked into that technology, who've looked into the infrastructure, who've looked into the motivations of all of the multitude of players that would stand to benefit from some shit like this, to us it's not crazy. Because we know, right? But we've spent a lot of time looking into it. Average person without that pre-existing baseline, they would have no choice but to believe it. If they don't think we have technology that can do that, then it can't be humans. It's got to be something else. I don't know. Yeah. It's just interesting. And the more, you know, I look at the rogue religious factions within our and all other governments, and how excited they are to be pushing us forward toward the apocalypse. I don't know. It's like such an exciting time for us to be alive on this planet right now.
It is. And then, yeah, there's certain like markers. There's like that red heifer. They're supposed to burn like a red heifer or something. And then one of the mosques is supposed to be destroyed or something. And so it seems like they've been trying, I don't know, maybe they have done it already for a really long time to breed a red heifer and burn.
I think the
heifer
that, right? Has been done. The last thing in, correct me if I'm wrong, don't they have to rebuild the temple?
I think so.
They rebuild the temple on the contested land, and
yes. So it's fucking crazy. And yeah, like the media, they would have you think that, I mean, at least like the mainstream media, like if you care about civilians, you're basically a fucking terrorist. Like,
yeah, right.
And like, of course, like, you know, we get it, like all the trauma and the history, but it's just insane how they take like the greatest tragedy in human history, like the Holocaust, and they turn it into like this political brand package. It's like saying like, never again, unless we're doing it. Like,
right. Yeah.
Like every war.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's and then it all like these wars, like they come with like slogans, and it's like there's like a merch drop, like somehow it's like somewhere in some Tel Aviv boardroom, there's like a guy like saying, "Oh, like could we put like the Iron Dome on a tote bag?" Like, you know, because they're just so fucking all about their like they're just promoting and like trying to justify their wars at like every cost, and people are just, I don't know. There's like, I mean, I think the majority of people are waking up to all of that. That's why Netanyahu seems to be under a lot of pressure and attack right now for right reasons. Unfortunately, it seems like Trump is kind of having his back.
Yeah, I mean, 100% participating in that. That's pretty obvious at this point. Yeah.
But yeah, like, you know, Gaza, they've got like just walls and checkpoints and drones, and it's like if the Warsaw Ghetto had Wi-Fi, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, whenever you point it out, like people are like, well, it's complicated. It's like, yeah, well, fucking, so is my tax return, but I still know when somebody's stealing, you know? Like, fuck. But
well,
yeah, it's just like the
I mean, it does bother me, like, and it always has, and not just with this group of people, but any group of people. Once people start saying, like, you know, we're more pure, our blood is more pure, we have more of a right to live. Like, dude, it's the same shit. It's the same shit. And the fact that people look at it and think that it's not that is like, I mean, it stands to what you're saying. Like, public relations is working on fucking overdrive. And it's like, it's effective, like, you know, or it has been effective to a certain extent.
Yeah. And I don't know the actual, I feel like I've heard that Ashkenazi, I don't know, there's like something with Ashkenazi isn't technically, I don't know. I have Ashkenazi, like I'm like 10% Ashkenazi or whatever. So I could be like, oh, I'm Jewish, or I have the right to this land, or at least a lot of people do that have Ashkenazi blood, but I'm not. So I'm just saying I'm like not biased. I just see things as they are. I'm trying to be like actually genuine about the way I look at this. Like they've got like influencers doing sponsored posts for war. Like you'll see like a TikTok. There's like, hey guys, I'm doing my skincare routine. I've got cleanser and toner, and oh, by the way, Palestinians are evil and Israel's great. And if you disagree, then you're an anti-Semitic terrorist. Like it's just like, I don't know. That's my last rant on all that.
Well, dude, it's all worthy, and like it to me, it like stinks in a similar way to how I felt the war in Iraq and Afghanistan stunk. It just stinks in a way where it's like this is serving too many agendas. They're flattening Gaza. That is almost certainly going to be redeveloped with a fucking swiftness. Watch how that happens.
Trump hotels.
But yeah, dude, 100%. Like that is clearly what's coming. But you know, it is no different than what we were doing in Iraq and Afghanistan. You know, it's just an evolution of that, where America is definitely no one to like take a moral position over that, but to see how fervently the administration has been behind continuing it has just been, Well, it hasn't been a shocker. I accepted a long time ago that politicians lie. They're liars. They shouldn't be trusted, and typically they'll tell you whatever they want or whatever you want to hear to get elected, and once they're elected, they've been doing that the whole time. Like, well before that's America, crazy. Like, that's just what politicians did, and
I don't know why I keep getting surprised, like, every time. I'm like, okay, yeah, like, Kash Patel's really gonna, like, get it going there. He's gonna, like, totally
sure didn't.
Be all about it. Fuck no.
He sure wasn't. It's again, it's like, we don't necessarily have to get super deep into that, but I definitely see that as once even they saw how corrupt it was, and I had zero faith that they were going to be able to do anything that they were saying before they got in. So just like full disclosure, once anyone who becomes those people, once they see the level of fucked shit is, they all of a sudden are like, well, we might as well just maintain, because if people find out how bad this shit is, they're going to be killing us in the streets. They will be rolling guillotines down the streets. So it's just easier to maintain, like the whole Epstein Files thing. They don't want to release that because it's going to eviscerate Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah.
That's why they don't want to release it. It's going to be so disruptive. People are going to want literal heads to roll. And that's for like the continuity of government. That is not a good thing. You know, it's not what they want.
Yeah. It's fucking crazy. Yeah, the continuity of government thing is pretty interesting too. I mean, like, just all of the infrastructure that they have in place with all of that. And like, I was just thinking about that as like part of this giant technological apparatus that like just keeps like building and building over time. Like, they have like, what, like, is it Cheyenne Mountain, like Raven Mountain. Rock, Mount Weather, like these are like heavily fortified government command bunkers that are online and like staffed and like 24/7 military networks. And so basically, like, if the Pentagon ever like gets taken out or something, like by a nuclear strike or a cyber takedown or like EMP blast or something like that, these places are the ones that will take over, and they're like the backup brain of the U.S. that's like prepared to run everything. I guess there's like they have like fiber backbones and stuff like that. It's crazy. Yeah, like they have like massive underground cables. They're basically like the nerve tissue of a global organism. So there's like light speed cable highways that carry all the encrypted government data beneath cities and oceans and rural areas, and like most people have no idea they even exist. Like they're armored, they're built to like reroute data if any section is cut. They've got like, I think it's like called like dark fiber, that are like completely unused optical lines that are just sitting dormant, and they're like waiting to be activated in case of a crisis or something. It's fucking nuts. And like, you just have to think about like the black budget programs and like dark satellites, quote unquote, that are like a part of like the control grid. Like, because many satellite surveillance programs are classified under like black budgets, making them essentially invisible to public scrutiny. But yeah, we pretty much like now live under a sky laced with corporate, militarized, and increasingly algorithmic, all-seeing eyes. So, you know, like the question is like, okay, so it's like, it's not what these satellites can see, but what are they programmed to find? And who decides what counts as a threat, you know?
Well, so I mean, this is a great point for this exploration. What are your thoughts on what you're talking about, the increasingly intense surveillance infrastructure that exists around us? What are your thoughts on that plus AI as we stumble into a world where AI is just going to be integrated deeper and deeper and deeper every year?
Well, let me think about this for a second. Because, like, I mean, Okay, there's like a lot of, so just like the technology, I just think about the technology that is coming and is already kind of here. So like one thing that people I don't think talk about that much that I think is really important is basically like cyborgs and like human machine hybrids, like for real. And like what's actually not only possible, but it's gonna happen, or it already is through telepresence technology. Because I think like we've all accepted the reality that robots are coming and they're kind of here to a degree, but they're getting more and more realistic, and like just as deep fakes and AI videos getting better and better to the point where you can't distinguish what's real versus what's artificial, so too it will be with robots. So like, and robots are fucking crazy, and they're getting crazier. And with the development in metamaterials, which we can talk about,
sure.
and these different technologies, there's emerged an industry of like biomechanical science, things like it's like prosthetics and exoskeletons and transhumanism, neuro-controlled cybernetic implants they'll regulate and enhance your body function. So like when you push them to reach their potential, what's going to happen is the robots and the cyborgs and the like telerobotics are, at least to our physical senses, going to become indistinguishable. But beyond that, and together with that, there's telepresence, like humanoid telerobotic telepresence. So like imagine if you have like a headset on, or eventually you'll have like contact lenses and a headset, and it'll feel like, visuals with no discernible latency, and the sound experience is completely like spatially auditory, high fidelity, surround sound clarity, and your body is basically outfitted with like a haptic feedback suit, and like you got gloves and sensors, and they'll eventually become thinner and lighter, and they'll transmit sensations in real time. So like the pressure of grasping objects, or the sensation of impact, or even just the subtle feedback of like walking and different textured surfaces, all of this while your body is actually like you're moving like on an omnidirectional treadmill that adjusts accordingly to your movements, allowing for like full range motion. And like you'll just be like in some room with like all these sensors and like things hooked up to you, or like in a bed or something. And like, so yeah, you have this like super awesome high quality experience. But like, I think like the real breakthrough when these immersive systems are linked to telepresence robots, which are like mechanical surrogates, I guess. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie Surrogates, but
yeah, sure.
This made me think like, so like you can have a fully like top of the line biomechanical surrogate, like made out of materials that are essentially indistinguishable from living skin and hair and all this stuff. And like these surrogates exist entirely in a different physical location, but they act as your avatar, and they're like in the actual world. So like as long as there's connectivity with the signals being able to transmit via the internet of things, it can link you to this telerobotic avatar or whatever. So telepresence technology enables the user literally to basically project their awareness and their perception and control into a remote robotic vessel. It's basically like full body embodiment through like sophisticated wearable technology, ranging from like motion capture suits and brain computer interfaces that monitor neural activity, like your physical gestures or your postures, and like your environment and expressions are like mirrored by the robot in real time. And then so like they have like more advanced setups like sensors they could be connected directly into your nervous system, transmitting your intentions into actions without, without you needing to actually,
say a set of commands or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just going to basically go off of your brainwaves. So the robot literally becomes your vessel. Its cameras become your eyes. Its microphones become your ears. Its arms and hands become extensions of your own. And because the feedback loop is bidirectional, any pressure, temperature, motion, like the robot experiences can be transmitted back to your body through haptic gear, allowing, you to feel what the robot feels to an extent. They'll probably have thresholds that you can build in to where if it gets to a certain, you're okay, you don't want to die, but you want to have some tangible sensation of impact or something like that. But yeah, so it's not just virtual reality. It's remote embodiment, I think, is a super legit and actual real thing that is coming. I've seen these videos on YouTube of them. They'll hook up electrodes to a guy who's had his arm amputated at the end. And so he doesn't have he has half an arm, and then there's a robotic arm that's on some tripod or something 10 feet away from him. And the electrodes they transmit the signals from his nerve endings. And then you see the robotic arm at the distance moving, the fingers, the hands moving. There's some level of sensation. Yeah. But that's that's telepresent technology. You can link your nervous system up and with a robot, and just you would put on, you could just immerse yourself in an experience and then control a vessel that is autonomous, that is able to navigate through the world, but at a distance. And that shit fucking blows my mind. But I don't know if that was...
It's 100% on the dock. That is happening already. They're already doing tons of different research in and around that idea. It's another scenario where humans are trying to... It's very Matrix, first of all. It's also Matrix. another scenario where humans are trying to digitize the metaphorical process of a soul inhabiting a body. It's I don't know, there's a weird meta analysis that could be made there. And then there's definitely the what does this do to us in the long term? This is kind of another tangential theory, but it's there's the idea that whatever we think aliens are humans from the future, right? We're trying to come back in time after we've evolved to a certain point to influence or steer society, right? And there's a piece of me whenever we start to talk about this dystopian future where we're constantly connected to and controlling an avatar. Our body moves less, but our brain and our sense of perception is used way more. What does that do to humans over a couple hundred years? And it's just very funny that it
atrophy.
You kind of become the idea is a gray alien. We're constantly we're under LED light. We're in these weird bionic suits that give us haptic feedback. We're controlling some kind of and I mean even drones. It's as you're describing that, you're just talking about the next evolution of drones. On the battlefield right now, drones are incalculable. They're invaluable. Their importance cannot be understated. And it has long since been an idea for the military to have articulatable humanoid drones controlled by, I mean, obviously you don't lose a person that you spend, thousands of hours training and millions of dollars getting up to a certain point. You just send in wave of drone after drone. That's been a military that they've wanted that. So, I mean, they already do it with certain types of drones, but having a humanoid type platform to deploy on a battlefield, that's for sure something we want to do. But You know, what does that
gosh.
do to, what does that do as a human? What does that do not only to our physical body? Like, does that turn us into the aliens of the future? But what does that do to our psyche? If like you live a whole experience, but you're not, your physical body isn't experiencing it. It's you're like through this portal. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
It can't be good. Yeah. I mean, just like, even like, I think that just the lifestyles that we have now, people living where they're, you know, just working in cubicles or they don't really go outside and exercise much. I think that like certain hormones, like over time start to turn off and like we don't start to produce as much testosterone and like testosterone levels are going down, like things like this.
For sure.
Like, just imagine the levels of what, like how different, like we won't be activating our natural genes, and it would be crazy. And yeah, I think your original question was more like on AI, and so like with the AI stuff, like that, just how it ties in with all of this technology. It's like kind of, to me, it's like all one thing. There's like different pieces of everything coming together, but I always have this crazy thought with like how it's going, like the trajectory of like AI and nuclear, because like it seems like it's going to get crazy because, you know, they have like these massive data demands. Like the only viable energy form that can sustain it at this point is nuclear. Yeah. It's like far superior. So obviously, since there's a massive interest and, you know, massive money to be made in advancing AI and computing power, like the incentive is there, and it all requires massive data centers that need to somehow be powered, and that's kind of like the bottleneck that needs to be solved or whatever. So yeah, so I think like Trump signed recently that order making it to where the NRC, like the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, cuts approval times down to like 18 months or something, so that these people can get approved to like start their companies making these. Yeah. So like that's going to open up crazy stuff. And so there's all these companies like popping up to produce micro reactors, like Valor. He's like this guy, he's like 25. He was on Sean Ryan recently talking about his company Valor. He's like producing these nuclear reactors to power AI, and he's like a Peter Thiel guy. You know how Peter Thiel has like these guys he funds? He's like one of those guys.
Cool. Neat. Great. Love that.
There's a company, Nano Nuclear Energy, and they have all these crazy names for their like designs. Like there's like Zeus and Odin and Kronos, but they're like these different micro reactor designs and stuff. And but yeah, it's going to be huge. I think it's going to change everything. And so,
no, go ahead.
Oh, you can go ahead. It's cool.
Well, that is this. I'm so glad you brought this up, because this has been like a sideways, and all of the stuff that I've done about like the alien shit, it all kind of ties back to more tangible nuclear stuff. And like, there's a piece of my brain that is willing to entertain the idea that the real reason why they don't want to unclassify some of this stuff, whether it's our tech or reverse engineered tech, is because while they were working on it, they were polluting the land, right?
Yeah.
There were people that were living nearby that probably died of cancer. And if they start declassifying this shit and people are like, oh, that's why my whole town got cancer. Oh, cool. The government would like be responsible, or the company would be responsible, and it would like, it's in the amount of lawsuits that would just like cripple it. But like, if you really look into the push for nuclear, there's been a couple people that have been really kind of spearheading that. I even saw, this was a couple months now, Rolls-Royce is making a deployable nuclear reactor. And I just sent this link to my buddy the other day. It was on X, but the U.S. Army on Tuesday unveiled the Janus program, which is a more than 6-year effort by the Army and the Pentagon's Defense Innovation Unit, with the goal of developing and constructing hundreds of state-of-the-art small nuclear reactors to power military bases across the United States. So like that is actually a huge industry. It has been a huge industry this entire time. And there have been behind the scenes a bunch of people trying to push us over the top. And there's one of like the earliest proponents of trying to like put nuclear energy everywhere was this guy on Long Island called William Catacasinos, and he's connected to like all these strange nuclear companies. But the point that I'm getting at here, and this kind of takes us to where we had originally started talking about how we wanted to kind of pick apart this episode, that Matthew Brown post that he did on X, which we can come back to here in a second. But one of the companies that he mentions in that X tirade is Amentum. He says, since you have all the clearances, it shouldn't be an issue for you to get a tour of the special projects hangars owned by Amentum. And I had never heard of that company. And when I looked into Amentum, their description is delightfully vague. You can't tell at all what it is this company does until you go to their website and you find out that they are a nuclear energy solutions company. But like the whole reason I'm saying all this is that we were like kind of thinking nuclear had faded and that nobody was pursuing that, and everyone has been pursuing fucking solar and wind farms. That's not the case. It's been big money developing just for this moment right here, as AI's demand for this power like is like on the parabolic curve up. All of these companies exist with small scale nuclear applications. And again, like this, in my opinion, is dangerous territory because it's not something we've refined to the level that it should be deployed, that it will be deployed at. And we just don't, like, people are just delightfully ignorant to how loose government and military all over the world have been with treating nuclear material. They're just really loose. It leaks in the water. They say whoopsie. And they clean it up, but they don't even really clean it up. It's just example after example. So,
and I think that even like the concern, I think it has the potential to be awesome. And just like a lot of things are awesome or have the potential to be awesome, but it's like, but what is it being focused on? What are they doing with it? And just real quick, is my audio coming through okay for you? Because it had a little bit of a lag. Okay, cool.
Yeah, you sound great on my end.
Great. So yeah, I think it's just like who's in control of it? What's it being focused on? Like how much do they actually like care about like the environment or people or whatever? And so like, it's funny, talking about like AI too. Again, like how it all kind of ties together. Like these agencies are now, they're integrating AI to produce like licensing and safety documents faster. So like the DOE, I think it was the Idaho National Laboratory, they were using Microsoft AI tools to draft like required reports. And this company, Westinghouse and Google's AI or something, they're also using AI to streamline their reactor designs. So like nuclear power plants feed these massive AI systems, and those AI systems run the nuclear power plants. AI gets to the point where it manages and automates every piece of machinery, finds new fuel methods, and makes nuclear power faster and cheaper. And the more power AI gets, the smarter it becomes. The smarter it gets, the more nuclear power it builds. At some point, it's not even humans deciding how much nuclear to build. It's the AI itself, like scaling up to meet its own needs. Like it innovates and it's more efficient at automation. It's creating more nuclear, creating stronger AI. And like, it's just like this loop that continues. Yeah. So it's great. Like just to think about like what's possible with, you think about things like, AI being able to design, autonomous drones using metamaterials and able to extract and assemble components and parts that can build nuclear reactors that fuel AI, and it's, you know, it just like keeps going, and this, it's like the Matrix is going to be born, you know?
Well, Skynet, yeah, I mean, 100%. Like what 20 years ago, if you were like, well, we're seriously going to face that, people would laugh in your face. But now, like, we have the option for a Terminator scenario or the Matrix scenario on top of like a whole list of other dumb, stupid scenarios that we could find ourselves in. You know, was this designed the whole time? Was it like inevitable that we ended up here, or is it a self-fulfilling prophecy? Are we think it as a possible future, so like we subconsciously are edging closer to that thing because we have entertained it as a possible option. You know, I don't know, but
all right. So I was thinking, because we were talking about like alchemy earlier. I was talking about how I love, of course, spiritual alchemy. But to me, it's like it's just the thing most people talk about when they talk about alchemy. So I like to also talk about like the operative physical alchemy. And I kind of think the same thing when it comes to like the phenomena of extraterrestrial versus like man-made stuff. Because, like, we can believe things, but we don't know, or a lot of us don't know, like what's actually happening. But just in terms of like if we're talking about like advanced technologies and like the potentials of advanced technologies and what are like man-made technologies and the potentials, I just think that subject progresses our understanding a lot. Like, you know, when we talk about like metamaterials, for example, like whether they do or don't actually extract and obtain these metamaterials and reverse engineer them, or maybe they're just super classified advanced metamaterials that they don't want the public to be aware of, so that's kind of like their way of shuffling it to the side or whatever. But it's no doubt that we have like advanced man-made technologies that are far superior to, like, say, like standard aviation systems. Like,
sure, yeah,
public, like, you know, we have like public sector aviation, which is just like so like dinosaur, super rudimentary, basic, you know, traveling on planes, and we all know like they have like technologies that can get us places faster. They don't like, they could use less fuel, and they don't, probably because these technologies are a threat to like businesses or like
existing paradigms, like,
utilities companies, or, you know, whatever, because they can be applied to multiple areas. Like if you have an advancement in propulsion, or you have an advancement in certain physics areas, those things can also be applied to other areas in energy, like, you know, utilities companies, like electricity. And so I think that is largely one of the reasons why these things are kept from public knowledge, is so that these people that are profiting greatly want to, you know, maintain control and power. And like metamaterials is crazy. Like when you look into like, so that, I guess, like defining a metamaterial is like an engineered, it's a material that's engineered and it's unnatural. It's not something that naturally occurs, but it's engineered, and it has unique, useful technological properties. So it's like a metamaterial. And so like they can bend light with like negative refractive index properties. You can create nano antenna array surfaces, like skins, that can guide electromagnetic waves around objects. That's like essentially like cloaking technology. Yeah. And so you can see how these things would be advantageous for using them if they're building aircrafts. Just like at once the stealth bomber was like a classified thing, and they didn't want people to know about that. Like, who knows what they have now? And like you can create like super specified like frequency absorptive materials that you can tune by design to specifically absorb particular wavelengths, like radar waves. For example, you could just tune your metamaterial to specifically absorb radar waves. And so, yeah, basically, if there's math for it, you can do anything within the laws of physics with different metamaterials. So then, like, the question is, like, what are the actual laws of physics? I think that's where the real conversations start to be interesting, because people will be like, well, these crafts, they're traveling at these speeds. This is happening, whatever, whether the Tic Tac or Nimitz or whatever, the popular ones that we get presented, like, yeah, these are outside of our known physics. Well, they could say that that's outside of the public's known physics, but these things could actually be within the laws of physics. We just aren't aware that those physical laws are actually possible. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I definitely think there's a strong enough thread there that some math and I mean, it is a known thing that a lot of nuclear science is still classified. It's like we can't reveal everything. The idea that there's some advanced, I mean, this is hard for some people to understand, but it's not hard for me to understand. Like, I don't think people realize that at every major technical school, there are people that are connected to intelligence. So if any student in America emerges as somebody who might be willing to or capable of entertaining some of this science, they get picked off, they get filtered and picked off very quick. And there's a bunch of good, like, known examples of these people like just disappearing into black worlds. But there's probably hundreds of thousands of examples that are just not known about, of people that get like siphoned off. Is there some advanced math that the government or military deems as dangerous? Yes. That, like, the Manhattan Project is a good example of that. But like, there's been so many examples through history where new science emerges and that science is like shuffled into obscurity because they don't want everyone knowing how to make an atom bomb or develop or build a limitless energy device. So I don't know. To me, that's never seemed that far out there.
Yeah. Was that the Manhattan Project? Was that the one where the things were like embedded in the side of the ship? Or was that a different?
No, that was Philadelphia Experiment.
Oh,
I mean, Manhattan Project's the atom bomb. Like, the Manhattan Project is all of the different programs that culminated in making the atom bomb. And there were a million different people all across the country at different companies and military bases doing different aspects of the development of that. But within all of those, there was science and math that was classified, and you couldn't, if you were at a college and you were caught doing that math, chances are you were going to get sucked into one of those programs. And, you know, for somebody who's like pursuing that thing, why not, you know? But yeah, like that to me is not that crazy. There exists examples of that happening in the past, and we still do it now. You know, and again, part of it's for good reason, because we don't want everyone to know how to build an atom bomb. But at some point, I think it would be silly to assume that we don't have some technology in a bunker somewhere that would revolutionize life for civilians on the surface. I think that would be silly.
Definitely. I think one of the benefits to all of this stuff is like, do you know who Dr. Eric Davis is?
I'm familiar. Yeah.
PhD astrophysicist guy or whatever.
Yeah,
but I guess
this picture.
Allegedly, he contributed to papers on like warp drive metrics, traversable wormholes, all kinds of crazy stuff. But I guess he's legitimately like worked on advanced propulsion for the U.S. defense. He does come from legitimate military, like his credentials are not bullshit. He has done what he said he's done, for sure. And I like listening to like guys like that, because you learn like crazy physics stuff, or at least I try to follow these conversations on like quantum vacuum fluctuations and the significance of like parabolic cylindrical mirrors and fucking all this. It's just like fascinating, because I was listening to a conversation with him the other day, and he's just like, wow, I mean, just go for hours talking about these like crazy physics concepts. And I think that a lot of it's just so far beyond what most people can comprehend and what they're aware of to wrap their mind around, that they just kind of like don't think that these things are possible, or they don't think that they exist. But like, you know, like with memory, like with the metamaterials that got like shape memory alloys, like that are like basically programmed to return to a pre-programmed shape upon impact. So you could like impact them, and then they could like go back to their shape, which is like one of the things, I think, I don't know if it was Roswell or one of these famous UFO.
It was Roswell. He like crumpled the material and then
shit like that. And so that's like, it's like a metamaterial, and it sounds like crazy, but it's actually possible. Like, it's not outside the laws of physics to create something like that. And then what's crazier is like thinking about like self-repairing structures. Like they can create like self-repairing structures with self-healing like polymers, like so they configure like networks of polymers that are like they have like reversible chemical bonds, so they could basically reconnect themselves after like the polymer chain gets like impacted or something. Like that shit, it is actually exists. And so like these are the things that I love about, you know, actually getting to the core of like, okay, what's actually possible? Because then it's like, okay, it could be aliens, and there's probably some extraterrestrial entities or advanced whatever, but also I'm sure there are groups, whether it's in government or outside of government, or that have access to these technologies, and they've refined them like probably so far beyond what we can even comprehend, that like, yeah, I don't know. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you there. You know, for me, this stuff just isn't so hard to entertain. And even if, like, sometimes I'll just be like, all right, well, let me forget all the crazy UFO stuff. Like, let me forget all the unconfirmable lore, and let's just go on the information that I do know to be real. And it's like the amount of money that is spent on the infrastructure to develop, you know, cutting edge technology. It's like numbers that most people just don't. It's more than most countries, and it's like what one country is spending to do this kind of stuff. Like, you were texting me the other day about the podcast I did with the Swerve. Was the InQtel?
Oh, that was a good one.
Yeah, that was super good. He and I also did one on DARPA. And those were 2 times where, like, I know about these things. I've gone on like tangents of research into these topics before, but actually sitting down and putting all the information together for these episodes, it was like, oh shit, I don't know. I know stuff and I don't know shit. Like, I'm just finding out more stuff that I had no fucking idea. And definitely with the DARPA one, like they pulled up stuff that I had never ever come across, and a lot of it had videos, like the craziest shit, like growing this brain in a petri dish and then having that brain control some like robotic.
Oh, he's talking about like Pong, like the neurons were playing Pong and shit.
There was that one, and I think that was, that may have been in relation to the InQtel, like that was like, it was like a DARPA thing. They bought a company that was developing this type of technology, and then DARPA since the 70s has been like growing brains in petri dishes and having them like that is a technology that has advanced crazily, but they were doing that in the 70s. And they were like they found videos of like demonstrations of this stuff from the early 2000s. So that's not even stuff it is classified, but it's not completely obscured. again, if that is the stuff that they're willing to let out there, like the stuff, I don't know. For me, it's easy to see the scale. When I see the amount of money that normal society spends to operate society and how much money is being spent to power like a network of bunkers underground, I can easily extrapolate that the shit that they're dealing with down there is well beyond like, the infrastructure that we have that is always on the verge of collapse. That doesn't exist in those places. Cheyenne Mountain is a good example because that has existed for since the 90s. It was in Terminator. It can take a direct nuclear blast and it's completely self-contained. They can grow food and sustain life for however many 100 or 1,000 people are in there for like a couple months, enough to ride out a nuclear blast. So, I don't know. The idea that we have like literally technology that if we were to see it, it would be alien to us, like stuff that we haven't even thought of. Yeah, that's their whole purpose has been to develop answers to problems that don't exist yet. So I don't know.
Yes. There was do you know who that UAP Gerb? Have you heard of this guy?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's got like super extensive, he's got like a really good video on deep underground military bases. Yeah. And it's good. Like, I love that stuff. But I was going to say, because you were talking about DARPA programs, I don't know if you've heard of this guy. He's like the Cardano. He's the guy that created Cardano or something, but he's also involved in DARPA projects, and he's super smart. And he was talking about, like, I think it was on Sean Ryan. He was talking about some company that he's working with to develop like bioluminescent plants, and they're able to like engineer plants that like you could like the way he was explaining it is like you can program into the, I don't know, the DNA or the genetics of the plant or something, how you like, do you want like strong root stocks? Do you want like, you could create bioluminescent leaves that glow in an exact particular color? And like, he was talking about this whole industry that's going to be formed off of people that are like, like think of like super wealthy people that just like want to design their house, and they want to like, I want to design this plant that's like glowing in blue for this wall over here, and I want to design a super durable root stock to create a fence with, and I just grow it and that'll be my fence. But like crazy stuff. Yeah,
that is
fucking nuts.
Fucking great. That is crazy, and it does sound kind of sick. That's kind of sick. If we
We're on a crazy timeline, dude.
Yeah. Well, and I say this all the time. Like, yeah, we're also like concurrently on our timeline. There are people that are trying to bring in the apocalypse, but like, yes, even if we're alive for that to me is still cool. Like. Of all the times we could have been alive, like we get to be around when the end comes. Like that's pretty. Yes. That's still cool.
I know, right? We're the one group of generation. The guy's name is Charles Hoskinson.
Charles Hoskinson. Yeah, I pulled it up. Too.
Yeah, he's fascinating. But yeah, bioluminescent plants, man.
And dude, like the crypto thing. I'm pretty deep in crypto. I've got a bunch of friends who are deep in it, and. One thing I really love about it is like it's the equivalent of the 90s .com boom. Like all the people that are getting rich off the first wave, like especially the people who like this guy, like the billionaires, the people who were made 100 million or billionaires. A lot of these guys are deep into like, not necessarily transhumanism, but definitely melding with technology. Like it's when these people are saying like this is the future that they envision, what I think it's important to realize is that they literally have enough money to do it, and they might like it's so wild to just be alive right now. We've never had technology like we do now, and it's I don't know,
fucking crazy. I always envision like a very potential future for me as like being in some rogue like break off group that is just like killing robots and like the anti-technology.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'll just be like, I'm gonna play that role. Like I'm gonna be the person that just focuses all my time and energy onto like destroying the robots or something.
Very John
like,
Connor. Yeah.
Why not? You know? Yeah. But I wanted to ask you what are your thoughts on like some of the guys that throw me off are like Lou Elizondo, because like I'm kind of skeptical about him. My girlfriend's met him, and you know she said that he seems really nice and genuine and all that. But like you know anybody can seem like that. But
sure,
like I know that he's done some private event where he presented a photograph and like claimed that it was like a mothership.
It was the irrigation
taken from
circles. Yeah.
There was the irrigation circle one, but then there was another one that was like a reflection in a
the
mirror
lampshade
of like a city.
or hit the yeah.
And so I'm like,
that one.
dude, like how can you be that? So that shit throws me off, you know?
Well, okay. So I think, and I'm super happy that you asked me this. I feel like this is the thing that should be discussed more. I don't know how involved you get on like UFO Twitter, but like there's a
not
whole
very involved.
it's completely fine. Like it's entertaining to me, but I don't try and get too deep into it. There's a whole thing going on with allegedly. Well, I'll get to that. I think it's important. When I started looking into conspiracy shit, it was important that you didn't trust government sources. Like you always took that with a grain of salt. Like if the government is saying one thing, it's because they're lying to you. That is their purpose. And we just have to take it with a grain of salt. Read between the lines kind of shit. Somewhere around the middle 2010s, it just stopped being that way. And like people were just... There's a guy, do you know Richard Doty?
Oh, yeah, the Mirage Man documentary and all that. Oh, yeah.
So that is a real thing that occurred in the 90s, right?
I wish more people were aware of that.
He's a respected, like people believe him. And he talks about like communing with aliens. Like he's talking about really fringe stuff now and people believe him. But his job was to deceive the UFO community. Like... paid for by the government, right? So when we look at, there's that guy I was telling you about, Jason Somoza. He has a great video on the timeline of Tom DeLonge coming forward for To the Stars.
Oh, I wanted to bring him up too. Yeah,
right.
TTSA
So
and all that.
the modern movement of disclosure, that is really the beginning of that. Tom DeLonge was cooking on that years before. And that's confirmed in the Podesta email leaks. There's like communications between Tom DeLonge and Podesta, and I think Clinton maybe, about like him helping bring this conversation to the forefront. Lou Elizondo and all of the people that came forward with Tom DeLonge, there's a healthy thread to suggest that a lot of those people come from like intelligence background. And
wasn't Lou Elizondo also like a counterintelligence agent or something?
He was the torture czar at Guantanamo. Yeah. So, but
he doesn't seem like he wants to talk about that too much.
Well, there's a whole other level to this where it's like he is a modern Richard Doty. He's being touted as like somebody with insider knowledge, but really all his entire purpose is to disrupt the landscape, is to get
but
people.
Damn, he seems so like your friend, you know?
Why wouldn't he?
He's so good.
And like, you know, not for nothing, like Tom DeLonge, like I don't think Tom DeLonge maliciously is trying to disrupt UFO lore. I think he is what is referred to as a useful idiot. He got he was interested in aliens. He was super vocal about it. He got a bunch of people blowing smoke up his ass. Like, I'll give you the secrets. And then like, what secrets have come out? What have we learned here?
Right. Exactly. They promised a lot of stuff with TTSA and all that, and what did it amount to?
Very,
Nothing.
very little has come out. And, you know, I have to, like, if you look at all the people, Peter Levenda, all the people around Tom DeLonge, there is a healthy argument to be made that they were using him to display this topic in a way that they could control or manage. So this goes to UFO Twitter, because there's a couple people that have been pretty vocally dismissive of and critical of what all of those people, the guys who came forward through the official channels, Lou Elizondo and the like. There's been a bunch of people that were critical about him, and those people ended up getting like gang stalked. And like, there's this whole movement of research where people are like, oh, okay, so you're telling me we're saying something about somebody who used to do this in counterintelligence work, and then those things start happening to us? The connection
maybe explain
there
for
is,
people what gang
unavoidable.
stalking is, because some people might think of that as
gang stalking would be a level beyond being stalked by a singular person. Gang stalking could include it would include a number of people going to incredible lengths to convince you or disrupt your reality, convince you of something,
like using technology to surveil you and like being
heavily coordinated. Again, like, these are things that were talked about in Mirage Men. Like, if we're assuming that story is as verified as it can be, what do they have now? They were doing that. The NSA was beaming into Paul Benowitz's head voices. They were talking
voice
to him.
skull technology. It's real.
Using this particular antenna, and that was in the 90s. So what did they have? Like, and, you know, kind of going back to the In-Q-Tel thing, it was pretty hilarious to me finding out that the entire ecosystem of the internet that we use is just surveillance equipment. It's surveillance technology. And how easy would it be to manipulate somebody into behaving a certain way?
ChatGPT. I always am on there and I'm like, fuck, man, I want to ask this question, but like, they're going to like wonder.
Yeah, they're going to flag you. Yeah, you're getting
I'm
flagged.
having it write like audiobooks on like the surveillance grid and all this stuff.
Well, you know, it's not one of those things to just like, you know, I don't know if if that is what turns you into a John Connor type. It might, for me, it's probably the murder bots. When they start building the murder bots, then I'm like, all right, John Connor scenario begins now.
It'll be like they have bots, but then somebody hacks them and then it just goes sideways.
Yeah. You know, I don't know, when I see the way that the shit is playing out, even in Congress, like all the people that are supposedly the spearheads of let's get this information out there, all of those people take money from Raytheon. All of those people take money from Lockheed and Northrop. And kind of going back to what I was saying before, like, the real crime here isn't that we have alien technology. There are no laws for alien technology. They're not committing a crime. What there are laws for are polluting the ground with toxic chemicals, right? And I just can't help but think that if we ever start to see any declassification here, those are going to be the big things. That's why they're keeping it quiet. Those are the things that people can be held criminally liable for, not exotic technology where no regulation exists. That's a gray area that the government has always operated in, delightfully so. And we're not even really getting into the idea that, like, there is a precedent to exist where, like, if the government needs something illegal to be done, they would do it on an Indian reservation. And there's a bunch of examples where they would there would be some kind of kickback, but they would
geological loophole.
Yeah, they would obfuscate the true scope of what they were doing and get the approval of the reservation.
Geographical.
Yeah, they would do stuff, you know, that they couldn't do over the line on American soil. So, you know, I don't know if any of that answered your question, but like I feel like when I look at a lot of that space, a lot of those guys, they're making simple mistakes. Like the examples that you brought up of Lou Elizondo are worthy criticisms. This is a guy who's supposed to know this shit, and he got duped twice?
Right.
That easily?
With
He got duped that easily?
And it just doesn't seem like that's... I mean, that one with like the crop circle, I'm like, come on, like we've all seen...
That was pretty
you know?
weak. Yeah.
What kind of level of analytics are you, you know, conducting?
Well, but that's why it goes to reason like that's not his job. His job isn't to...
Right.
His job is to just make the whole thing be a laughing, like a joke. Like, how can anyone take this seriously kind of deal? So...
Yeah, I wanted to ask you if you've looked into or like researched like the real Men in Black, quote unquote.
I don't know. I've watched YouTube videos. I wouldn't say I've researched it. And you know, I know enough to know there's like the idea that maybe there's an adjustment bureau of humans that are like the Men in Black, but then there's also the idea that maybe the Men in Black are also aliens, and there's, you know,
yeah, it's interesting.
But I can't say like I've researched it and know well enough.
Yeah, I haven't done like a lot, but enough to convince me that there's something in place, whether it is an human organization or whatever, fucking AI organization or something that's in place during scenarios where some anomalous phenomena genuinely occurs and gets detected. These men tend to show up and have interactions with witnesses and whatnot. And I interviewed this woman. She was like one of my early interviews. Her name's Susan Manwich. And I found her actually through interviewing different guests about like physics and electromagnetism, and like I was researching these guys at Borderland Labs or whatever. They were like involved with like the Integratron and like Eric Dollard and Peter Lindemann and all these guys. But she at one point was kind of working with them to help in some capacity, but I interviewed her and she was telling me her experience, because she's very convincing, and she has experiences where she's, since she was a child, I guess, had these encounters with just kind of like light beings or something. Not so much like a technological thing, but it seems like more like a light entity type thing or something. But she's super like solid, grounded, articulate, not like crazy at all. And she had recounted the scenario where she was in elementary school and she had some thing happen, and then like she was at school and she had got called up to the office, and then the office lady had said, somebody's here to pick you up, but your parents aren't home right now or something. And she got picked up by this, I think it was just one guy or something, this man that was like interrogating her while he was driving her, and she was like all nervous, and she was talking about trying to like shield him from her thoughts. And he's like, so you see those beings too, and like asking her questions. And then I think she was basically saying she tried to just like, she could like feel his mind in her mind, like trying to like extract her fucking thoughts or something, some weird shit like that. But then she like, I guess, lost memory and like whatever, woke up later or something. But this kind of thing. And then James Fox. You know James Fox? He's like
the
one that
documentarian.
did the Brazil crash case and all that.
Yeah.
He had discussed a bunch of different things where he kept having people talk about these men in black, or like these people that would show up and with all these different scenarios, and then he like would ignore them, and it just became like so overwhelming that he's like, damn, there's like something to this. So I just find it interesting. It seems like there's definitely something, some sort of organization or group. But what's weird is that some people have said that the encounters have certain weird patterns, like the men will speak like they're from the 50s, or they'll like show up in cars that are like old school, like 50s cars, or like weird stuff like that. And so it's just fun, and I don't know, thought I'd bring it up.
Well, there's also too, like, in the books that she wrote, Diana Pasulka was talking to this person who has since been identified as this guy who's like deeply entrenched in NASA and the American rocket program. His name's Tim Taylor. And
I've heard that name a lot.
Yeah, he's a enigmatic figure from this space that, you know, stuff exists, knowledge and proof of his contributions to the rocket program exists, but he hasn't like spoken. He hasn't entered into the UFO arena at all. But that's like, he's entrenched in it, and he's like, I don't know. Those are the people that we need to hear from. Like the people that don't want to talk, those are the people that we're going to need to hear from to actually gain like insight as to what's going on. But anyways, in like one of the conversations he was having with her, he presented this idea that he was involved in like some kind of adjustment bureau, Men in Black scenario. I don't know like what his involvement there is, but like that is something that's completely on the table. Like,
I hope they don't have mind swipers, man. I'd be really bummed.
Well, they don't need
like
mind swipers. They don't need mind swipers. They could program, like, dude, they could get us through fucking Facebook Messenger. I'm sure they could hit us with a beam, and we would go straight Manchurian Candidate. Like the mechanism there is so strong, and human psychology is just like, so the more we learn about it, to me anyways, the more simple it becomes. The more we just become, you know, slaves to a response. Like if certain LEDs flash in sequences in front of our faces, we just behave certain ways. It's like you know, and when you look at that's getting a little off topic, but basically what I mean by any of that is like, you know, I don't think that's so unrealistic. Like, let's say the government at the highest levels is researching or participating or developing types of technology. They have cleanup crews. That for sure. They would for sure have that. And if there's any involvement with any of the things that we're talking about, they would have cleanup. There'd be some kind of contingency to like contain stuff that happen. Like they do that. The military does that.
Yeah.
You know.
I wonder the extent of the actuality of like these certain like nest teams or like these crash retrieval teams. I know that like allegedly, I guess like Dr. Gary Nolan, he's like that professor of pathology, and he's invented like different cellular technology and stuff. But I guess that he's analyzed biological samples for, I don't know, some intelligence agency or whatever related to UAP phenomenon. I guess that he found that there are unusual brain MRIs and structures that, like in the brain, that resemble white matter scarring, and that is like akin to high energy exposure cases. And like these are the types of things that he observes with the brains, I guess, of people that have been exposed to certain phenomena. So somehow he seems like he's involved somehow getting his hands on actual materials and analyzing them, and the individuals that have experienced things. And I think that it was claimed that like the ratios weren't like some of the materials he found, the ratios, they say, aren't consistent with natural or industrial, like Earth origins. I don't know if it was like something with like magnesium or bismuth or something, but like the way it was composed, the sample that he analyzed, it was his conclusion. But then I always wonder about that stuff, because I'm like, well, it might not appear that way, but like if some group has the ability to create some super advanced metamaterials, it might just seem like that to people that don't have any knowledge of that. Like it just might be so far ahead of its time that you I don't feel like you can safely just definitively say that it's not of Earth. I don't know though. Maybe there are like really scientific ways to like.
You're completely right, and again, like there's just the argument of like, what better way for a company to obfuscate or maybe even discourage other companies from looking into this kind of stuff is like having Gary Nolan not knowing, having him look at it and then say it comes from aliens. You know, anyone that was thinking they were going to pursue trying to do something like that is now like, well, aliens did it. There's a million different ways that could be used in some kind of like deceptive, even in terms of like as a military tactic to like throw off an adversary. Because now that release goes public, and now an adversary is like, wait, they have metamaterials? How the fuck they get that? Where do they get those from? And it creates this idea in their mind that maybe we have some technology, and whether we do or we don't, that's good from our perspective because they don't know. Like they don't know what we could be bluffing or we could be dead serious, but they don't know. And I think this space is used a lot for that. It for sure is. It's exactly what Doty was using it for. He was using the UFO space to diverge people's attention from classified aerospace that was getting developed, that we didn't want, anyone we'd rather people be talking about aliens than the cutting edge stealth technology that we were building. So, I think there's so much of this. It's just like, I don't know. It's definitely full spectrum. There's it's not just full one spectrum. Thing. It's not just one thing. It's not just one story. Like I think this crosses into like so many different areas of our understanding of reality. And like I've talked about this a lot on the show, but like, our eyes only see so much, our ears only hear so much. We're at the point in humanity and technology where we're, for the first time, maybe unlocking the human ability to see more, or you see what I'm like with. We've developed technology now we can see different spectrums of light, and who knows what's there. Like
now they've got like contact lenses that can like see like infrared or something. Like they've got like night vision contact lenses, or like next thing they'll be able to like, you'll do a procedure and then you could just fucking see night vision or something.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but 100%. It's full spectrum. All right. I want to ask you one more, just out of my own personal curiosity, what your opinion is. I want to know like what your thoughts are on, Dr. Stephen Greer, because I feel like he has actionable intelligence. But then like, like he's got like a C5 events that are like thousands of dollars, and that's like super gross. But then I think I've heard I think Danny Jones was saying like they did one of those protocols and it like actually worked, or something. I don't know. So yeah, I was just curious, like, what are your thoughts on Stephen Greer? And
Greer is interesting, and Greer is definitely like one of the longest consistent faces in that space who hasn't had some. I mean, people have accused him of shit, but really nothing has come out that's like, oh no, this is a direct tie to he's trying to muddy the waters or whatever. He originally gets looped in with the one Rockefeller who was like super into UFOs. He and Linda Moulton Howe and even the Clintons kind of get selected as people who are it's gonna be okay to talk. You're gonna help destigmatize the topic of UFOs. And yeah, dude, like he up until 2017, he was the only person who was trying to bring forward whistleblowers or like do anything legitimate in the realm of like getting people aware that this technology does exist. I don't think he always has to get credit for that, but to think that he has somehow avoided being used as a useful idiot for all this time, not a fucking chance. Like
it's
at some point,
impossible.
at some point he got messed around with it. Just like it's a law of averages. You do it for so long, you're going to run into that experience. But I think he definitely believes what he's like, what his beliefs are, he believes them. He's not playing that up for anybody. And he's also like, he is super willing to call out Lou Elizondo and any of the modern iterations of people who are like fucking up. Like he is dead serious on trying to have there be some serious disclosure and bringing people forward to do that. And for a while, even with the government, like he was like the only person who was officially recognized, again, because of his connection to that Rockefeller, that there was like, okay, well, he's serious and he'll bring people forward. But I don't know. He's an interesting one too. And again, at some point, not everyone who's told him a story is telling the truth. That's
right. Yeah,
like, for sure not the case. Like there's some people who are trying.
It must be crazy. I could only imagine like the amount of craziness that you would just be immersed in. Like, what would be going on?
I've had the Antarctica whistleblower who came forward through Greer, Eric Hecker, and like even just his experience is fucking nuts. But he's like nowhere like somebody like Greer. It just must be 24/7 chaos. You can't trust anybody really, and you have to just be like your head's just always on a swivel. And like you're ready to fucking fight. Like especially in the past couple of years, he's gotten way more aggressive. Like he's like he'll if somebody says something to him, he'll really go after him. But that to me stinks more of he's been saying this shit for 30 years.
Yeah, it's just kind of bitter and like fuck.
Like why didn't anyone fucking listen to me? I've been saying this for 30 years. But yeah, I mean the bottom line is he charges a lot of, he sells books and DVDs, documentaries. Like it's a money making enterprise for sure. And I think you always have to be a little bit wary and it's not like a little, it's well more than just like operating costs of getting his story out there. So
we got like Hell Put Off and, Jacques Vallée, and like Hell Put Off is like a lot about remote viewing, and to me remote viewing isn't like that impressive. I don't know, just something about it doesn't seem that significant in my mind. There's like a lot more. I just see how like, okay, they could be like, and I'm not dismissing it. I think it's very possible. I just think that it could be something that is a mask and a divergence to divert people's attentions from some kind of surveillance technologies or something that they have that, say they use remote viewing to locate some submarine wherever that was a threat, and So it was like actionable intelligence. And apparently they have some guys that are really good at it and that have like a high, high ability to utilize it. But I just feel like I feel like they have so much surveillance technology and other capabilities that I don't see how it would be that useful. What are your thoughts on like remote viewing and all that stuff?
I dug super deep into that. I read it was Hal Puthoff and Russell Targ. I've read a couple of Russell Targ's books, but basically, I'm kind of inclined to agree with you. Like there are ways, and Jeremy Riss like did a great job of explaining this, but like there are ways that they could have been fooled into thinking there was something there that wasn't. I used to think maybe there was no possibility for that, but then after hearing that argument, it's like they could have gotten owned. And
I just wanted to give him credit because I think that he actually helped, kind of made me think about it a little bit more.
His take on that is great, and it does make a lot of sense. Like, okay, you have this super crazy spy technology, but you can't reveal that you have it, so you just say that a guy viewed it with his brain and he was right. The other hilarious thing to that is also just like how it started. Like we started because we heard the Russians were doing it. So like it could also just be straight Cold War propaganda. It was a whole lore gets imagined, but it's just really guys thinking they're remote viewing something. In reality, it's just to give people an excuse, like, to bomb this thing or to take some kind of action. I don't know. It's like whenever you get into intelligence, you have to accept that that's a component of it. It's a deception.
I know.
That's their whole goal.
Right. Like how deep do the psyops go? Like, are they like releasing declassified documents knowing that people are going to see them to influence perception? Like, does it go that, you know what I mean?
It has to. To assume that would never happen is silly.
Yeah.
But, is it happening every time? Probably not. But like, has that been used as a mechanism to control perception or behavior? Absolutely. This is what these organizations do, and they're very good at it. I mean, clearly, like they're very good at it, and they've been doing it for 75 years at this point. So, I don't know. Again, kind of like to button up all of this, like, would the infrastructure exist to keep this kind of thing under wraps, whether it was actually aliens, extraterrestrial beings, extra dimensional beings, or if it was all just humans? Yes, it does. Like there is multiple layers that would exist to obscure that truth. And all of it is, ultimately it's all military. Like it's just a way to have leverage against an enemy, especially when we're no longer the most technologically advanced nation. We're not even the nation that like produces the most. So, it's
I was watching it. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You made me think. I was just watching these videos the other day on, I don't know if it's Taiwan or, I think the machines actually might be like manufactured in the Netherlands or something, but like these insane machines that are the machines that embed through like neon the chip designs on the silicon wafers that make up computer chips, and just like the amount of sophistication and the technology and how they like transport them, and they have to be like super careful so they don't get it off balance because it has to like be like so precise. And then, why was I bringing? I think I was bringing that up to talk about, because you were saying something like, I don't know. It made me think of technologies that are being advanced in other countries, and that we are reliant on all of these components. We're reliant on like Taiwan or Europe or these places to import a lot of the machines or the technology to then be able to manufacture the chips here in the US. But we are not actually the ones that are like, we don't have the processes here in the US to fully do that all ourselves. Like, we're so dependent still on all these other countries and their resources in order to do that. And then it made me think of like how significant and important it is for us to maintain healthy relations with a lot of other countries. And then I'm like, damn, we're fragile.
Yeah, we're really not excelling at that right now.
Can't we all just get along?
No, we can't.
It's like, do we really want to like make China our enemy right now, or Iran, or whoever it is? But
yeah, the future is again. It's just it's exciting to be alive at this point.
Yeah.
Like, whatever happens, it will be exciting to be alive when it does, because we're just reaching into like so many areas that there's no precedent for. No humans have ever experienced it. Like, we're really treading into the fucking unknown. But it's why I'm glad to be doing this and having conversations with people like you, and even just knowing that there are other people out here that are trying to have these kind of conversations on a regular basis. I think this is constructive. A lot of people will say this is like a waste of time, but in my opinion, it makes a lot of the existential dread of modern society a little more stomachable. And exploring these topics in a healthy way is, again, why we're alive. We're witnessing shit happen that is like, we only know of it in sci-fi movies, and to not contemplate on what that means, like really what that means for the human experience is silly. So, I want to, as we're wrapping up here, I want to kind of give you the floor for a second to tell people where to check out your stuff and any new and exciting things you got on the docket for yourself.
All right. Well, I greatly appreciate you. You're so fucking fun to talk to. People can find me at Instagram at Philosophical Minds Podcast, or Etherica Podcast. Check out those podcasts on Apple or Spotify or wherever you podcast. I have something coming up. Something is coming up. That is a book. That is Ike Baker's book on mythology that I did the artwork for.
Oh, sick.
And so I'm excited because it's really fucking cool. And I'm excited for people to see that. So, I've done some of the artwork for a few of his other books, or the Etheric Magic book, and then Jamie Paul Lamb. I don't know if people are familiar with him, but just released this book, which is called The Astrological Goetia, and it's really cool. And I went through the 72 angels of the Shemha Mephiresh from this old document and reconstructed all of these sigils.
Oh my God.
And
sick.
It was extremely meticulous, but it was a blast. And now these are available to people to have. And so that was an honor to be a part of that. And so yeah, I wanted to let people know that that's out there. And yeah, I guess that's all I got.
Well, I love that. Thank you again for agreeing to come on here. And like, well, there's so much, all of the things that we talked about today, there's so much stuff happening. There will be a point in the near future, I'm sure, that will justify us going on another one of these existential tirades. But
we should do one on like directed energy weapons or something.
Oh, dude, money.
I like that stuff.
Happily. Like it's funny. That's like the one topic that I always have problems with on the internet, but I like that there's so much tangible, very Googleable shit about that. And that I think is a component of reality that is another reason why they might want to confuse people into thinking that it's UFOs. And it's not like some weird technology that we have that is being used against us, or the idea that maybe countries have been at war this whole time, but with weather, energy weapons. And, I'm 100% into that. I think that'd be sick. But yeah, I'll have all the links to the podcasts, and even I'll find the links to the books too, and I'll put them in the description. So people be sure to check those out. And again, dude, thank you for doing this, and we'll have to coordinate another one.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. And yeah, till next time.
This has been the Totally Legitimate Business Podcast. Thank you everybody for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one. See you guys.
This has been the Totally Legitimate Business Podcast. The end. With your host, James Oliva. Executive producers, Clint G and James Oliva. That's obnoxious. Sound design, mix, and master by James Oliva. Literally no one cares. For more Totally Legitimate Business, subscribe to our YouTube channel at Totally Legitimate Business, or add us on TikTok at TLB Pod. When will this end? Thank you for listening. Now get back to work. Move it along.